I have always loved creatures others feared, snakes especially, misunderstood, much like myself. People see them as symbols of death, as lurking evils waiting to strike. But I knew better. A snake only bites when threatened, only kills when forced. Treat them with kindness, and they will be gentle in return. Yet humans do not understand such things. They fear what they do not know. They whispered behind my back, called me wicked for keeping serpents as companions. They envied my beauty, my wisdom, my devotion to Athena. Their jealousy was like poison, spreading through their words, their gazes. But I paid them no mind. My heart belonged to the goddess of wisdom, and I lived only to serve her. Then, he came, Poseidon, a god as vast and unknowable as the ocean itself. His voice was the crashing tide, his eyes the abyss. We met by chance on the shore. He weaved promises of protection, of love, of a world where I would never be alone. It was tempting, but my heart belonged to Athena, and so I refused him. Yet I did not know that my sincerity would lead me into darkness. His hands were heavy, suffocating, drowning me beneath a wave I could not escape. He did not need force, only a whisper, a cup of wine laced with something unseen, something that turned my limbs to stone before my curse ever did. And when I woke, broken and defiled, it was not his face I saw. It was Athena's. Her wrath was like a storm, her voice a blade that cut me deeper than anything Poseidon had done. I fell to my knees, pleading, begging her to see the truth, but she only looked down at me as though I was filth, a stain upon her sacred temple.
"You have broken your vow,"
she said, her voice void of mercy.
"Your beauty has led to your corruption. It will do so no longer."
I screamed as the curse took hold. My hair twisted, writhed, transformed into hissing vipers that coiled around my face. My skin burned, my veins turned to ice. The first time I opened my eyes, the priestess who had once been my friend turned to stone before me. One by one, everyone I loved, and who had loved me, met the same fate, frozen in front of my helpless gaze. I ran. I hid in the darkest corners of the earth, veiling my face, pressing my fingers into my cursed eyes, as if I could gouge them out and be free. But the serpents wrapped around my wrists, hissing warnings, stopping me from my own destruction. They were my jailers as much as my only companions. I hated them. I hated myself. I hated him. Poseidon sat upon his throne, untouched, unpunished, while I became the monster. My rage consumed me and I let it. I let it fester, let it twist into something dark, something deadly. If the gods would not take justice for me, I would take it myself. I went after his temples first. I found the men who worshipped him, who prayed to him, with hands still stained with the blood of the women they had defiled. They screamed as they turned to stone, their prayers turning to ash on their lips. I shattered their bodies into dust beneath my feet. But Poseidon did not care. I was nothing to him, a mere mortal, an insect squirming beneath the weight of a god. My vengeance was a drop in his ocean, meaningless against the vastness of his power. I stopped trying. Instead, I turned my gaze toward men like him, the ones who took what they wanted, the ones who whispered lies with honeyed tongues, the ones who thought themselves untouchable. They learned fear when they saw me. They learned what it meant to be hunted. I became the nightmare they told their sons about, the whisper in the dark. They set traps, they gathered their weapons, they came for me in numbers. And they failed, time and time again. They came at night, thinking they could strike unseen. I heard their boots crunch against gravel, their breath catching in their throats when they caught sight of my veiled form. The bravest among them stepped forward, sword trembling in his grip. I pulled back my hood. He locked eyes with me. The terror in them lasted only a second before his body seized, his flesh hardening, his skin turning grey. His lips parted in a silent scream as his muscles froze, as his soul was ripped from his form and trapped in lifeless stone. I had long since stopped counting how many men I had turned to statues. Their expressions of fear, of agony, of disbelief. They no longer haunted me. But what if they succeeded? Would they call it victory? Would they sing songs of their triumph, boast of slaying the monster that was once a woman? I no longer know if this is a curse or a blessing. For now, no one can ever hurt me again.
I have always believed that knowledge is power. A glimpse into the future, a mere whisper of what is to come, would be enough to change the course of fate. And why shouldn't I be the one to wield such power? I was beautiful. I was intelligent. I was persuasive. There was nothing I could not obtain. So when Apollo came to me offering the greatest gift of all, the sight beyond time, I did not hesitate. But the gods are never so generous.
Love me,
He murmured, his golden hands caressing the air between us.
and I will make you the voice of the gods.
I laughed. Did he think I would give my heart so freely? I wanted his gift, not his affections. I turned away. His face did not twist in rage, nor did he strike me down. No, his vengeance was crueler. He left me my gift, the sight of what is to come, but stripped me of the power to change it.
You will see the doom of all you love, yet your words will fall like wind upon deaf ears. This is my gift to you, Cassandra, and you will pray for death before the end.
I thought his curse meant disbelief, but now I know the truth. His punishment is far worse. The first time I saw the future, it was like drowning. I fell to my knees, clutching my throat, my vision blackening at the edges. Images tore through my mind like rusted daggers, smoke rising from the walls of Troy, the sky painted in hues of blood. I opened my mouth to scream, but only black bile poured forth, thick and reeking of decay. It dribbled down my chin, burned my throat, filled my lungs. I gasped for air. The court recoiled from me. "She's gone mad," someone whispered. My father, King Priam, looked at me with something that was not quite fear, but something worse. Pity. I wiped my mouth, my fingers stained black. "Troy will burn," I rasped. "Paris must not go to Sparta. He must not take Helen. If he does, we are all dead." Silence. Then laughter. The nobles shook their heads, exchanging knowing glances. "Poor Cassandra," they murmured. "She was always strange." Paris smiled, placing a hand on my shoulder.
Sister, you worry too much. The gods favor us.
I stared at him, watching as behind him, his face melted into something grotesque. His skull split open, his flesh rotted away, his eyes sunken and black with death. But when I blinked, he was normal again. He left for Sparta the next morning. The prophecies did not stop. Each time they came, they took more of me. My body weakened. My skin grew clammy, stretched too tight over my bones. My hands shook. And always, after every vision, the bile would rise, spilling from my lips in thick, oozing waves. The people whispered, "She's cursed." She speaks of death, and death follows. She brings ruin. My father locked me away. Guards stood at my door. The palace halls echoed with my screams. I saw it all. The siege, the starvation, the slaughter, my brothers cut down, my father's blood staining the marble floors, my people screaming as they burned, and yet I was powerless. Helen arrived in Troy, her beauty shining like a cursed star. I lunged at her, shrieking, "You are death! You will destroy us all!" The black bile poured from my lips, pooling at my feet. The smell of rot filled the air. Helen did not flinch. She merely tilted her head, smiling, and whispered,
Then let it begin.
The war dragged on. Years of blood, of bodies piled high at the gates. I warned them, Troy will fall, Troy will fall. But my words meant nothing. Then, one day, the battlefield was empty. The Greeks were gone, and in their place, a gift, a massive wooden horse standing silently outside the gates. No, this was a trick. I saw them already, the warriors hiding inside, their blades gleaming in the dark. I saw them emerging in the dead of night, slaughtering my people as they slept. I saw fire licking at the walls, the screams of children, the streets running red. The bile rose as I screamed, my voice raw and broken. Burn it! Burn it now before it's too late! They laughed. They called me a madwoman, a harbinger of doom. Enough, Cassandra, they spat. Enough of your madness. The gates opened. The horse was brought inside. That night, the slaughter began. I awoke to the scent of blood. The screams of my people filled the air. The Greeks were everywhere, their blades cutting through flesh, their torches setting the city ablaze. Smoke burned my lungs and I stumbled through the chaos, my dress drenched in bile and blood. The visions flashed faster now. Priam's throat slit open, my brothers' heads on spikes, the temple floors slick with gore. I saw it all before it happened, my mind screaming warnings that no one could hear. Apollo's laughter echoed through the flames. This was his curse. Not just that no one believed me, but that I had to witness it all. Again, and again, and again. I was dragged from the burning ruins, my wrists bound. The Greeks would not kill me yet. I was to be taken, a prize of war. I lifted my gaze one final time. Apollo stood in the smoke, his golden eyes gleaming. He had won. Troy was gone. But I remained, a prophetess of death, a ghost in my own skin. I would live, and I would see every horror yet to come. I am Julia. I have been shunned by the entire village because of the ugly scar on my face. I lived with Marcus, a blind man with a pure heart. But sometimes I wondered, if Marcus could see my ugly face, would he still love me? Though my heart was filled with worries, I still loved Marcus dearly. Recently, couples in the village had been mysteriously disappearing. The villagers believed that our love was a curse that brought misfortune upon them. Whenever we went out, they would point fingers and curse at us. One furious couple even shouted,
Go away, you cursed pair!
Overwhelmed by anger, I picked up a small stone and threw it back at them. The murmurs and gossip grew fiercer. But the next day, that couple suddenly went missing. The villagers immediately accused us of being the culprits. We were dragged into the street and pelted with stones. I cried and tried to prove my innocence, but the villagers ignored me. Suddenly, the village chief appeared. He calmed the crowd, urging them to continue searching for the missing couple. The villagers reluctantly dispersed. The chief whispered to us,
Poor souls, go to the statue of Cupid and pray sincerely. He will take pity on you and grant you blessings.
We thanked the chief and followed his advice. We were praying before Cupid's statue, but a voice suddenly echoed.
Who is praying here? Cupid cannot turn a blind eye to unfortunate love. Oh, you pitiful souls, follow me.
Cupid led us to his castle, where we were welcomed with a feast. Marcus joyfully drank a glass of wine. For a brief moment, I saw his eyes come to life.
I can see the light. Is that you, Julia?
His joyful expression suddenly turned to horror. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew at that moment Marcus had seen my ugly appearance. Shame overwhelmed me. Marcus's eyes returned to their usual blindness, but his face twisted in pain.
That was the temporary effect of the divine wine. Don't dwell on it. Now tell me your wishes.
I immediately begged Cupid to bless us with eternal love so that the villagers would accept us as normal people.
I wish to share my desire in private.
Unable to bear the worry in my heart, I followed them and eavesdropped from behind a wall.
Make me able to see, I'm begging you.
Very well, but on one condition. You must offer a heart in exchange.
Marcus fell silent, but his silence was like a deafening explosion in my heart. After the wine feast, we returned home.
I am Marcus. A cruel illness stole the light from my eyes. If I regained my sight, could I find a prettier girl? But Julia had cared for me all this time. How could I betray her? Suddenly, I heard the village chief's voice.
Is something troubling you, young man?
I poured out my heart to him. The chief whispered.
True love demands sacrifice. Stop hesitating. Take her heart in exchange for your sight. Your life will be happier.
I stood over Julia's bed, listening to her steady breaths. She was deep asleep. Julia's tearful voice broke the silence.
Marcus, this breaks my heart. You don't have to dirty your hands.
She pressed the blade through her own chest.
Be happy. Take my heart for your eyes.
Oh no, what had I done? Julia was the one who loved me most in this world, and yet I had betrayed her. No, I had to beg Cupid to save her. Cupid, where are you? I called out, but there was no answer, only a chilling silence. I groped in the darkness, and my hand touched something rough, shaped like wings. I had heard that Cupid had wings. But if the wings were here, where was Cupid? Suddenly, a voice rang out.
Have you brought the heart?
My hands trembled as I held Julia's heart. Her heart was snatched away. Is that you, Cupid? Please return her heart and bring her back to life. I no longer want my sight.
There is no Cupid here, you naive fools.
A stinging pain burned my cheek as I trembled in fear. What do you mean?
I need 100 hearts from loving couples to create the elixir of immortality. You were so easy to deceive. The village chief received a hefty sum for luring couples like you here.
I was devastated. It was all a scam. I couldn't hold back my tears. Julia was dead because of my impulsive trust in that fraud and the village chief.
Now your hearts belong to me.
I was once a poor man in a village of craftsmen, where our calloused hands outnumbered the gold we had ever seen. We worked from dawn until dusk, shaping wood, carving stone, and hammering metal, yet we could barely afford to fill our bowls with barley and wine. But I had heard the stories of a king blessed by the gods, a man whose very touch could turn anything into gold. Midas. The elders warned that his gift had been a curse, that the gods, in their twisted humor, had made him suffer for his greed. But I had always laughed at such tales. How could wealth be a curse? I wished, I longed to be like Midas. And then the gods answered me. It was an ordinary afternoon when I walked down to the Pactolus River, a bundle of filthy garments slung over my shoulder. I dipped my hands into the water, swirling the fabric in slow circles. The current curled around my fingers, and for a moment, it felt different. Thicker, heavier. Then I pulled the cloth from the water, and it gleamed. At first, I thought the sun was playing tricks on my eyes. But no, it was real. The fabric had turned into solid gold. I gasped, nearly dropping it. My hands trembled. I reached for a stone by the riverbank, my fingers closing around its smooth surface. The moment my skin met the rock, it transformed. A golden pebble sat in my palm. Was this a trick of the gods? A cruel illusion? I had to know. I grabbed a branch. Gold. A rusty dagger. Gold. I let out a cry of triumph and ran back to the village, my arms full of golden relics. I was like Midas. The villagers were speechless when I showed them my power. I turned bowls, tools, and even entire doorways into gold. Our village was no longer poor. That night, we celebrated. The elders hailed me as a chosen one of the gods. My parents wept with joy. I sat at the head of the feast, basking in admiration, letting the villagers serve me as if I were their king. Finally, I had everything I had ever dreamed of, until I grew hungry. The first bite of bread turned cold and heavy between my teeth. Gold. The cup of wine froze into unyielding metal as I lifted it to my lips. I tried again, grasping a fig, an olive, a piece of roasted lamb. Everything transformed, my stomach twisted with fear. I could not eat. My father tried to comfort me, saying they would find a way. My mother broke the bread into tiny pieces and pushed it into my mouth, her hands trembling. I let them feed me, swallowing without tasting. It was humiliating. But if that was the price of my power, so be it. I could endure it, because I was more than a man now. I was a god. Or so I thought. Then came the day I lost everything. Callista, my love, my future. I sprinted to catch her as she fell, relief flooding me, until, before my eyes, her warmth faded. Her skin hardened, her breath stilled. She was turning into gold. I screamed. I held her, pleading with the gods to take back their gift. But no miracle came. The villagers gathered around, their eyes filled with terror. They saw now. I was not blessed. I was cursed. They recoiled from me, whispering of omens, of punishment from the gods. Someone, one of my own friends, muttered that my hands should be severed, that it was the only way to stop the curse. Others resisted. They still wanted gold. They still wanted more. Greed outweighed fear. And then, the others came. They too had bathed in the Pactolus River. At first I thought I was no longer alone, but they could not control their power. They touched their loved ones, their children, and turned them to gold. And then came the sickness. It began with a cough, a few specks of gold dust, then more, until their lungs filled with golden shards, until they coughed up their insides, choking on their own cursed wealth. Bodies collapsed in the streets, their skin glittering with death. The untainted villagers turned against us. They hunted us like wild animals. I watched as they pinned men down, hacked their hands from their bodies with dull axes. The screaming never stopped. I ran and ran. But gold was everywhere now. The trees, the rivers, the fields. It had spread like an infection. There was nothing left. This was my fault. If I did not stop it, the world itself would become a golden tomb. I knelt on the ground, placed my hands on a block of stone, took a deep breath, raised the axe, and struck. Pain, blinding, soul-ripping pain. Blood spurted in thick rivers as my severed hands hit the ground. and just like that, the curse vanished. The gold rotted. Everything I had ever touched, the houses, the tools, the statues, Callista, it all crumbled into nothingness. I reached for her, but there was no one left to hold, only dust. Now I was neither god nor man, just a broken creature, left behind in the ashes of his own greed. They called me a hero, the one who slayed the Minotaur, who freed Athens from its nightmare. But titles fade, cheers turn into echoes, and in the silence of the night, the only thing left was a name I had tried so hard to forget. In my dreams, Ariadne stood alone on the cliffside of Naxos, where I had left her. Her eyes were hollow, denied sleep since the moment my ship disappeared. In her hand, she held the red thread, the same thread that once led me out of the labyrinth. Only now, it was soaked in blood. And next to her feet lay the severed head of the Minotaur. Its dull eyes stared straight at me, full of the same blame I saw in hers. I woke up gasping, like a man who had nearly drowned. There was a fresh cut on my hand, and it burned faintly, always in the same place, as if something had wrapped tightly around it during the night. At first, I told myself it was nothing, just a phantom pain from old battles. The next morning, I sat among nobles pretending everything was fine. I lifted my goblet with trembling hands, praying the wine would still them. But the moment I drank, something sharp slid down my throat. I coughed, gagged, blood spilled from my mouth. In the middle of the crimson pool on the table lay a single red thread, thin and glinting. Then came the screams. I ran toward the courtyard without thinking. The bloody scene before me left me frozen in place. Queen Phaedra's body hung still from the olive tree, red thread holding her like a broken marionette, swaying softly in the wind. Around her, guards and servants lay scattered. Their throats were slashed open, clean and silent, as if the thread had kissed them goodbye. I ran. I sprinted through the palace halls, my mind blank with terror. But when I burst into my chambers, everything stopped. Lying on the floor was the Minotaur's head. Again, its vacant eyes locked onto mine, as if it had been waiting. That night, the blood moon gleamed in the sky over Athens, casting everything in a deep, red glow. I couldn't sleep. My chest felt heavy, each breath sharp and tight, as if something unseen was pressing down on me. Then the pain came. I jolted upright to find a thin red thread wrapped tightly around my wrist. Without warning, the thread pulled tight, as if guiding me towards something I could neither see nor resist. I grabbed my sword and walked through the silent halls, where even the air felt still and watching. The thread led me beyond the palace walls, into the forest that loomed behind the gardens. There, in the heart of the woods, the labyrinth had returned. And it wanted me back. I stepped into the labyrinth. The air inside was cold and heavy. The thread pulled harder, guiding me through narrow, shadowy turns. And at last, it brought me to the heart of the labyrinth. Ariadne was waiting there, alone in the dark at the center. Her head was bowed, her hair soaked and clinging to her face like seaweed. Her skin looked drained of color, pale and cracked like melted wax. In her hand, the thread was still stretched between us, resting gently in her hand. When she looked up, her voice was barely a whisper.
You came back.
My thoughts tangled with questions. Should I confront her, or beg for her forgiveness for what I had done all those years ago? Ariadne finally spoke, her voice cutting through the silence.
You abandoned me, left me to rot in loneliness. I gave you everything I had, and you disappeared without even a goodbye.
Then she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. Her skin was freezing. The thread began to move again, slithering up my arms, around my chest, tightening with every breath. I tried to pull away, but I couldn't. Ariadne began to change. Her face twisted, contorted into something monstrous. Horns split through her skull. Her mouth stretched open far too wide.
You took everything from me. Now, the labyrinth takes you forever.
Right before the dark swallowed me whole, I realized the thread that saved me now leads me to my end.